in the ink. Community funded every drop. Now stop and think. They said that shit won't work, bitch. Watch me. I'm building culture while they stuck talking stocks. G banks won't change. We want fucking freedom. So I tattoo cash on bodies. Let the streets breed them. From jail cells to needle buzz. Still preaching pill to pill. No middleman blood. They counted me out. Lost gear, lost time. Still came back tattooing cash like it's wartime. Wartime. Yeah. Ain't on skin, bitch. Beard. Walking billboard. Ain't on ski. Yeah. Fuck what you heard, Lord. Raise that cash. Put the needle to flesh. Turn the pain into power. Turn belief into checks. Sprint a van loud. Make the whole block listen. Every tattoo an interview. Every scar got a mission. Camera on. Camera on. Yeah, we document it all. This ain't all for play. This a system we install. Sprint a van pull up like who the fuck next? Tattoo shop, podcast, docu series set. Bitcoin cash beats rattling the damn doors. Green logo glowing like a fucking war torch. Every chair a mic, every client got truth. Why they done with banks? Why they bet on the youth? Why fast, cheap cash matter in the real world? When rent due, lights off and the system call. They sell fear, I sell fucking proof. One tattoo at a time, that's grassroots truth. You want adoption? Stop capping online, put the chain in the streets. Let it breathe, let it grind. Pain in the needle, fire in my chest. They said slow down, I said nah, fuck.
There will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, banks.
And this is exactly what these Bitcoin Cash people are building.
Shout out to the Dragon Riders and the House of the Dragon.
Because it's a completely different situation than it was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
That's how frogs can't boil. And they added a bunch of new opcodes and they're doing a bunch of things over there.
It will be the most hated rally ever because a lot of people from some propaganda hate Bitcoin Cash.
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast. Following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency, this is episode number 172, Fund Tokens and BChat Beta featuring Miguel. Today is Sunday, the 25th of January, 2026. I'm your host, Jeremy. Jet is doing the producing, same as always. On the price, steady lads, BCH $585.88 per 100 megasats, which is flat. One BTC sat buys 151.8 BCH sats, which is slightly up, and one ETH buys 501 megasats, who are also slightly up. BCH having a pretty good week. 626 users in Selene. They might have been trying out, well, I know they have been trying out BChat, which you can find at bchat.cash. And we have there's a post there if anybody wants to ask any questions. We'll also come back to that later in the show. The Tokenaut TBL is at 9,103 BCH. Did I say I'm your host, Jeremy? Jet is doing the producing. Maybe I did. Okay. All right. And shout out to both of us because the podcast is 5 years old. It was, I think, the 21st of January is our 5-year anniversary since the show got launched. Me in my bedroom. I had I always think when I did that first episode, I had a quick sip of rum before I did that first episode of the show. So there you go. That's some behind the scenes info. Congratulations, happy birthday podcast. And the next 5 years, I think, are going to be even better than the 5 we've already had because it's an exponential. And certainly I have more fun doing it these days. I mean, I already had fun right from the start, but I feel a lot less stressed about it now than I did then. Okay, our guest today, Miguel, is the creator of fund tokens and Blaze participants. He was previously on one of our BCH Blaze Builder interviews, but of course not everybody will have seen that. So welcome to the show, Miguel, and give us the run through right from the start. How did you get into Bitcoin?
Good morning. I got into Bitcoin just by chance. I was in school and I was just working, and I had some guys near me just kind of bring it up. I think it had barely hit $100 for the very first time, and I kind of brushed it off the first time, right? But then it kind of came up again, and then I started mining, right? The conversation came up again the next day or a week later. Started thinking about it more, started mining. It was possible back then to use graphics cards, right? And so started mining, got a couple Bitcoin, and then I was doxxed, so I lost everything. So learned a quick lesson pretty quickly, and then from there it was kind of building, learning about it, and then I got into Counterparty. Counterparty was big token on Bitcoin, right, when it was fun to trade on, and that really kind of launched my curiosity, right? And there was a token, folding coin back then, and that I got involved into that project, and that kind of launched my continued my interest and my participation, my light participation, I would say, in Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So quite a few different things in there. Do you have any Gox memories? It's quite appropriate with the 5-year anniversary. I did not get wrecked by Mt. Gox. I did not have any coins on Mt. Gox, but I had used it. I did not deposit my own money in there. Actually, I had some Chinese students at the time that were getting into Bitcoin, and they wanted to use Mt. Gox. They were trying to arbitrage because Mt. Gox always had a higher price than the other exchanges, which later came out because the whole thing was a fraud, of course. But it was like viable. It was conceivable because it was also the biggest exchange, right? So it could make sense that it was leading the market. Anyway, they were trying to do arbitrage on Mt. Gox from their bedroom in Beijing. So,
but I mean, I think there was interest, right? There was curiosity, right? There were so many projects and things being built at that time. Every day, it felt like something new was kind of being talked. New project like I was using Bitcoin. But luckily, I didn't lose a lot in it. It was, maybe 1.5. And so at the time, right, it was, not much. And so, but it didn't, it just kind of taught me a lesson of not your keys, not your coins, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a classic lesson that everybody has to learn over and over. And luckily,
Yes.
Bitcoin is very resilient to having coins lost. It's a very unintuitive thing that when people first hear about it, they go, oh my God, there's only 21 million coins. Well, what if we just lose enough of them? We won't have any left, and then we'll be screwed. And it's kind of well, yeah, but actually it's infinitely subdivisible. So the whole world could run on one Bitcoin and it would be completely fine. So yeah, people that's again one of the very unintuitive things about whenever people hear about hacks and coins are lost. Sometimes they are lost, sometimes they're just scanned and then later resold, but time just sort of redistributes them back into the marketplace. And Bob,
I mean, there's a guy that lost his hard drive, right? That had thousands of Bitcoin, and he bought I think he eventually bought the dump site, right?
Did he to try and get it back?
Yeah, try to find it. I mean, that's a smaller than a needle in a haystack kind of search.
If I remember correctly, he at one point legitimately hired NASA to use their satellites over this landfill to specifically try and find. He spent more money trying to find these coins than I think they're worth at this point.
I doubt he would have done that, but maybe I don't know.
I remember
like,
Vice did an article about him. I think his name's like James. He used to follow me on Twitter. Let me see if I can find him again.
He used to follow you. Oh,
Yeah.
man. I love it. I love it how the world is such a small place. Wow. Okay. I mean, I think I heard something about he gave up at one, like, recently. I think he might, exactly, maybe he has just spent more money than he ever could have got back by finding it. And just, like, that's just so bad. That means he's kind of lost the Bitcoin twice, if you know what I mean. He could have just reinvested that into buying fresh Bitcoin and he would have plenty, you know? But it's just it's such a good story because it captures people's attention. Like, that part is so relatable. Everybody can understand the idea of this guy had a hard drive with something valuable on it. Even if they didn't like Bitcoin or know anything about it, they kind of got the idea because they could imagine, oh, I've thrown out a hard drive with irreplaceable photos of my grandparents or something like that. So it was through those kind of mechanisms, especially in the early days, that a lot of people got to hear about Bitcoin, because telling them about Bitcoin itself, the mining and the proof of work, and all, they're like, what is this? But if you can tell them, oh, look at this guy, you can make it about a human interest story, then suddenly the Bitcoin is sort of the side element rather than the main focus, right?
Yeah.
His name is
connecting.
sorry,
sorry.
real quick. His name is James Howells. He's been in Bitcoin since block 4,334. We still follow each other. Shout out to James.
Shout out to James. Well, maybe he's listening to the show. If you are, glad to have you, a true OG of the space, and hopefully a big blocker too. I'm sure he knows more about hard drive, you know, improving technology than anyone in the world, probably. Yes. So you got Goxed. That taught you not your keys, not your coins. You said you were kind of interested in mining for a little while there as well too. You did some mining.
Yeah, I was on the very tail end of GPU mining. ASICs got introduced, and after that, I was instantly priced out. And so,
it wasn't your main interest.
Fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's also another thing, you know, in hindsight, that history, like, a lot of people just having it be accessible in that early way got a lot of people interested, who then went on to not only build the mining industry that we have today, but also to, you know, do other things. So it's just that key moment of, like, first hit is free. That's always when I'm trying to onboard people to BCH. You always got to just try and give them a little bit, because it doesn't matter if it's 1 cent, doesn't matter if they don't understand it, doesn't matter about any of that. It will just sit in the back of their brain, or it will spark some curiosity, and then the butterfly effect takes care of things from there. So then you got into folding, you said. Tell me more about that. Yeah.
So Folding Coin was like one of the first projects, I think. I don't know precisely, but that was on Counterparty, which was embedded tokens on op return, right? And they distributed their tokens to participants of people that would use their computers to research and simulate science, basically using folding at home, right? Folding at home. At the time, I think it was run by Stanford, but they have a mechanism to, like, record points, you know, give just a point system for how much, you know, simulation you're doing effectively. And it's a rough estimate, kind of akin to proof of work, right? So the idea was, you know, instead of mining for hashes that just kind of go to waste, mine for research, and you know, kind of everybody wins, right? And so I joined the project after they had started, and but then, you know, the rift started happening after a little bit, you know, I think a year or two after joining the project. And then, you know, with costs just being, you know, started to go up, right, became, you know, any kind of token became less viable, especially a distribution token that we were sending to, you know, 1,000 people, you know, a month. And so costs started, you know, make the project less possible. And also that's, you know, going back to Bitcoin and its usability, I think I totally agree that I think you should be able to send people 25 cents, right? And then they should be able to send it and play with it, not necessarily, you not have to send them a lot of money and they not be able to move it now because of cost, right? Otherwise, what's the point of these systems? I never understood that part. Where it was I get HODL from like a trading perspective, right? But HODL from like a network system. I'm an engineer, right? And so, I come from it from an engineering perspective. Like it's the point of the system, especially with the smart contracts and how this VM stack, and you guys know this. So I'm definitely preaching the choir here, probably a little bit, but right, it's more advanced as programmable money, right? That was like, oh, that's cool. Okay, let's do something with programmable money, right?
But I mean, that's still a very salient point even today, right? Which is that just not everybody does understand that. Like we genuinely do have to be on an educational mission to explain, even to ironically, quote unquote, Bitcoiners, which is people who got into this and maybe they found it through another mechanism. Like maybe they had more of an economic background, maybe they're not, or maybe a political one, maybe they're on that whole gold camp and and the Fed angle and all that, which is great. Like it's great that everyone could be a part of that, but it means that they genuinely do not see Bitcoin in that way of being a programmable, extensible system. They don't think about it like an engineer. And often I find it's very interesting, those people also, they see Satoshi, and that's why it's good that Satoshi was anonymous in a way. People see Satoshi in the way that they want to see him. So for those people, they think, oh, well, Satoshi was a computer programmer, great, he built this, but he was this economic genius, or he was this ideological freedom fighter or whatever. And he was all of those things. But like I've said on the show many times, he was an engineer first. So if you don't think about Bitcoin with that engineering aspect to it, you tend not to get the whole picture. Like, for instance, the ossificationist type of view comes from the misunderstanding that economically Bitcoin needs to be ossified around maybe this 21 million limit. That's true, and that's good. That's a good idea, but it doesn't mean at a software level that it should be like that at all. Quite the opposite,
right? Right. Go back to consensus, right? It's whatever you agree at the end of the day. The project, the point of any software, right, is to solve problems. And I think that kind of gets into, like the idea of folding coin was to try to solve something, try to solve something using the programmable money, right? And be able to frictionless. That was the other part, right? I didn't need permission, which, I come from an overbanked society. So when I talk to people, it's hard for me to approach them from that perspective. Like you said, it's kind of, how you approach people, definitely matters too, right? So I don't approach people that are overbanked from that. It's like that everything's solved. They're never really denied access to these services, right? And so, but the frictionless, that kind of was, that was the other part that kind of really intrigued me, was I could send money to people in Kenya that, aren't online currently and have nobody, deny me because, they're, they need help or something like that. Like donations, that was cool, right? It's all kind of, and so it was all these little things that over time kind of build up, and it's like, oh, this is really cool possibilities. And I think we really have just scratched the surface, right? Everybody sees the money, and it's interesting, like you said, I think you've said this, brings people, when the price goes up, right, brings people to it. It's definitely, that grabbed my attention, right, initially, 100%. But it was everything beyond that that's kept me here, and it kept me in Bitcoin Cash, because Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin to me.
Yes, you and me both. So tell me a little bit more about the folding at home stuff. So I'm vaguely familiar with this idea, like you said, and it was actually a common suggestion in the early days. That's kind of died away now, but people kept saying things like, well, proof of work is being quote unquote like wasted. Why don't we repurpose it onto something useful like this protein folding or something else? Of course, that has the trade-off, which is then you've sort of muddied the waters. Then there's possible that economic incentives of this other thing could then, screw up the very simple, pure, you burn the electricity to get the Bitcoin out, right? So I think that it was a good thing that the community didn't go in that direction. But nevertheless, people have interesting concepts around this kind of idea. And I don't know very much more about it than that. So walk me through what is protein folding, why it's important, and were you involved with that before Bitcoin, or you became involved because of Bitcoin?
I got involved because of Bitcoin, and I was in Bitcoin. That was one of the tokens on Counterparty that I bought, and then they were doing podcasts, and so they were looking for a developer, and I was a junior developer. I was like, oh, maybe I can help out a little bit, and so that was kind of my introduction. And it was a lot of our work was more just, getting information from the folding at home system. So that is a trust. I personally don't, I agree. I think I wouldn't base like Bitcoin on that, right? Maybe if you want to have a side chain or, like these reward coins where you're still trying to incentivize people to come, but you still, how do you bring utility or value to the coins is still the question, right? I think that's a big question for all coins, right? Meme coins, they're fun to trade, but that's all they do. And so folding at home, there's they just, I don't know their exact way they reward points, but you're using your GPUs, to simulate these proteins and how they would fold based on researchers' projects, what they're researching. And so it's used to find cures for, or, help understand and, find medicine, right, for cancers. I think it was diabetes, COVID-19 was definitely, they were heavily involved with, simulating a lot of that stuff, Parkinson's. And so we were able to bootstrap that system, and that frictionless part was a key component that allowed for it to happen, because they only allow for text input, and we get just numbers kind of back from them. They give us points, and they have work units, which is another division of work. And so we're kind of just trying to, leverage the system, right? Give them that boost.
So you were sort of redirecting people's computing power, or how did that work? Because if you were part of, and I don't know, again, what was your involvement then directly or indirectly with the counterparty team? So usually people can, if they want to, just go on folding at home and direct their computing power to be part of this sort of botnet, right? But for you to do this distribution of counterparty tokens in reward for people doing that, either they have to give you the hash power, which you then redirect to folding at home, or they have to somehow prove to you that they had done that work. How did that?
Well, it was kind of like a trusted game theory idea, right? Nobody would, so you can update your name, right? And that was the key part, where we would have just people update the name of folding at home, which is the key identifier that they use to track you. And we read that and just look for valid addresses, right? And so it's kind of game theory that nobody's going to rightfully long-term mine, I'm going to say mine for somebody else, right? Without meaning to. They're going to do, they're going to be selfish and mine for themselves. So we weren't too worried about people, using somebody else's address, right, in that way.
So the folding service itself publishes a list of contributors, and people could put their Bitcoin, I guess, address in there, and then you would send them the counterparty tokens for the work they've done. Is that the idea?
That's correct. So we would, so I was involved with the API side, which was just downloading that data, and we compile the list, and then every month we ship it off and do that batch of transactions to send everybody their counterparty tokens.
Right. So you pay people once a month with the reward tokens. And how did that go? It sounds like it was fairly popular. If you said you had 1,000 users, like that's a lot.
I remember it grew exactly, and it grew in popularity when Bitcoin started increasing in price. But that was the downfall was the dust values, right? And having to send everybody a little bit of dust and op return all the time, every month, and that was the limit to doing any more daily or real time, because the complexity of these systems go up, and we were all doing it for volunteering. I wasn't getting paid for any of this. It was just to learn. I find that side projects and lately the hackathons, I've learned more from these things than I do sometimes at work, right? Because my work, is always very focused. They have me on something for months at a time. Sometimes, it's the same stuff. And so it's hard to learn anything else there. And so these projects kind of help there, and it's like, okay, I want to learn something new. How do I do that?
Right. Okay. So then, like you said, the sort of block size debate started heating up. Fees were going up. That maybe made it impractical to continue using counterparty for these on-chain tokens, which maybe were not also the best design. They were just the best that could be done at that time. Yeah. So I'm wondering if you have any reflections on that in terms of relative to cash tokens now and the tech that we're working with. Is that obviously a noticeable step up in your eyes, or is it more like, well, the counterparty would have been good enough if the blocks had been allowed to scale at that time? What do you make of that?
As coming from a software engineer, again, I'm fully on board with cash tokens and prefer it being a class one, part of the, the system, embedded into the structure, because it gives us minor validation, right? That was the biggest drawback with counterparty. They were constantly having issues with their nodes validation, right? And I remember a couple times the whole system go down, right? And then because even if you saw a counterparty transaction, you can't actually assume it's true.
Right, you've got no proof of work behind it, and you need to sort of, again, give time, or maybe trust the indexer, or that's a good point. And so then what happened to the counterparty team and so forth? Are they still cracking on with things, do you know, or did they eventually just give up, or have you kept an eye on that?
I haven't, because after the fees and then the split, there was a year or year and a half or so that kind of like, well, Bitcoin's kind of like not interesting to me anymore. So I kind of stopped using it. And then Bitcoin Cash, happened, and then, it was kind of quiet for a while, right? There was some core foundational work that had to occur. And so that happened, but then cash token, SLP kind of happened. Memo Cash came out. That kind of got me back into it a little bit, and then cash tokens, I think, hit right, shortly after that. And then I was like, yes, finally, a native token, I was happy. And then I was like, okay, I'm ready to. So then at this time, I come back, right? So I had that little break of like I needed to step away, came back, and cash tokens was happening, and kind of got my interest again, right? And I was like, okay, well, maybe I can start up folding coin, a fork of folding coin, essentially, right? And I was like, okay, I can start folding cash, right? Because I personally am of the belief Bitcoin Cash is UTXO, right? I mean, just scales. So it's better, right? And so I was like, well, we'll start it. I took a lot of the work, is all open source. So we kind of share a lot of the code. And am happy for that, right? I'm familiar with it. And so the tools for cash tokens was luckily not too bad. I would say at the time I was still early, and the tools have kind of become more robust, and they've matured a little bit more, right? Cash script, I think I was still a little early there. This Layla upgrade, I think that makes a lot of things more possible. The commitment increases. I was, some of these things were constraints, but weren't impossible, right? To work with what I was doing. So I did make my first contract use it for folding cash, right? And I was like, okay, that again, I feel like it's just kind of chipping away of like interest of like, okay, now I'm in smart contracts, and there's language that makes it easier to kind of wrap your head around, right? I did still struggle though, I would say, to fully understand how to connect smart contracts. And this is where just a weak point, I think, in at least I don't know where to find resources for it, of like the higher order understanding of some of these things, of how do they work together. And that's where last time on our conversation for BCH Blaze, I was talking about the scalability. Well, I was talking about the smart contract relationship. Actually, you can parallelize the work heavily because of be able to look at the cash tokens, right? And within the within your personal transaction, not from the node perspective, right? And so I have contracts, right, validating the contract, and then I have other smart contracts that can trust validation has occurred by looking for that other smart contract, right? It's like a proof, I call it proof by send, right? Proof by spend, right? If I see a UTXO being spent, I know the rules of that UTXO has been proven, right?
Yes.
And so that was the idea of like, okay, I understand how to approach fund tokens now, right?
Right. Okay. So just before we get onto that, so there is actually a folding.cash token, FLDCH, which is number 34 on Cauldron at the moment, or it was yesterday when I checked. What is happening with that? Are you actively maintaining that? How do people get it? By contributing at folding.cash, or explain that token a little bit?
Absolutely, thank you. The token, you earn it by same thing with Folding Coin. We use the Folding at Home username. So you just install Folding at Home. You update your username to be it has to be a token enabled Bitcoin Cash address, and then that's it.
That's it. You start earning.
You're earning, right? Having a GPU will definitely give you a benefit, and there is a couple of extra steps that will give you like bonuses that Folding at Home does. And so I don't have control over that. And I reward once a month. So if you start in the middle of the month, at the beginning of the next month is when you'll see it. As well as if you join our Discord, I do have a bot that will allow you to query your username and see your current usage. I update once a day because the stats can kind of explode in size if you download too much. And so that's the best way to earn it. The other way, of course, is going on Cauldron. We have liquidity pools to be able to use. So by there, that's kind of a donation to us as well, and essentially, or we accept donations. I do this all for free. I do this just because I'm trying something. I want to do something with Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash is kind of my favorite project. It always has been, right?
And is there then something else that drives demand for, because obviously people can just fold and fold and fold and sort of mint more and more and more of these tokens? Is there any kind of burn mechanism, or besides speculative demand, is there anything else that you are doing or that you plan to do, or etc., that will drive interest in acquiring Fold tokens?
So yes, I was, but I haven't found much interest in it. So, but I'm willing to sell merchandise, and I've established that I forget the exact percentages, but I'll burn some, and then some of it, has to be used to pay for the material, and then some of it will go back to the business itself, as well as I've kind of thought about maybe changing that a little bit so that I actually donate some to Folding at Home. So essentially buying merchandise will be a donation to Folding at Home as well. But again, there's been little interest there. The challenge I have found is, again, that social side. We were talking pre-show, is like, I'm an engineer, but I don't have I don't have the social side, right?
Yeah, the outreach, the promotion, know, getting it in front of people's faces, hyping it up, making some AI clips or something, there's a lot to do.
It takes time, those things, right? And I have other, I have life, and, and so I contribute what I can, but there is a limit to how much time I can contribute. I do need to, I do want to, right? So besides this, with the BCH Blaze Hackathon, I worked with Ander with the Battle Cash, right? So I was thinking we could evolve that to be some kind of system where, you're not battling, I want to be sensitive, right? So you're not, I don't know if I want to battle cancer or not, right? But you could be like having there could be like grants or something like that in your, like, you have NFTs, right, that are trying to win the grants or something like that, right? And then have Folding Cash as a driver, right, and part of it. So there are thoughts, but it takes time, takes people, takes investment, and it's, unfortunately, I'm kind of spread thin as it is.
As we all are, obviously, effort is in short supply. We all know that. So no, that's very cool. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear there's some more ideas there, and certainly then this is a call out on the show for anybody who is interested in this concept, Folding.cash, maybe somebody more on the promotional side, or who likes the idea of those battle tokens, can get in touch with you, and maybe we can get some more eyes on that. Definitely, then more collaborators certainly can't hurt, right?
Anders become a great resource as well, and so I think he's interested in helping out. So there's additional people, then absolutely, we happy to share what we've learned so far and help you, learn.
Okay, so tell us about fund tokens, and I guess maybe by way of Blaze, were you working on this before Blaze or not? But maybe just start with what actually is the concept for fund tokens.
Okay, so fund tokens is it's an on-chain that uses on-chain smart contract system that allows you to combine your cash tokens essentially into I've heard liquid receipt be used. I'm calling it fund token because my idea is to evolve it beyond just a fixed basket. That's the other kind of word I've heard. So it'd be like a fixed token basket. You deposit your so for the Blaze Hackathon, going back there, that there was a bounty for kind of this system where you could basically have a token that was like a 50-50 split of Moria and parity that's coming up, right? So you could have a stable coin, but equal holding of them, right? And so that's the fixed token basket. That's what we're kind of focused on right now to deliver. We actually just have made our website public, chipnet.fundtokens.cash, And you'll have to join our Telegram group to get some of the fun tokens to be able to start redeeming and minting. Everything's on ShipNet, and these are all just make-believe tokens that have no value. I'm just making them up. But you can make bull and bear funds, right? You can have a 50-50 holding of a bear and bull, or you can have a 25-75 or a 75-25 bear bull, depending on your mood, right? So the idea is just to lock all of these tokens though into smart contracts, and it allows people to see, have instant audibility, right? They can redeem at any time, which is, obviously great. And then you would also, one benefit is, some other benefits is you could transfer multiple cash tokens. So that is one downside to cash tokens, right? Is you can only transfer one cash token on a single UTXO, and in smart contracts that can create limitations. So this would allow people to essentially, verifiably trade, n number of tokens in one UTXO, right? And so, and that's where we're headed toward. Right now, we've only done 2 because we're still definitely in proof of concept, kind of like, iterating now on our proof of concept, I should say.
Wow, yeah, I had not even thought about that. So you're going to show us a demo, right? I believe so. You can fire that up and walk us through it. But I had understood the financial concept that, okay, if you take, like you said, like 50 cents of parity USD and 50 cents of Moria USD, and you lock them together in a smart contract, then you minted a one like mixed USD,
right,
which then has spread out the risk across those 2 projects for default. So even in the case of a default by one of the projects, you would still guarantee 50 cents. And so now you can abstract the ability to spread the risk over onto those different projects. And of course, people know that from ETF stock funds. They don't want to, they can buy an individual stock like, Google or Apple or whatever, Tesla, or they can buy an ETF, which lets you get a spread of certain different companies or a certain industry. So that's very financially useful. And based just on that, I thought, wow, this is a really cool project. I hadn't considered that it actually makes tokens programmatically abstract so that on a single UTXO, you can transfer a fixed ratio of n number of cash tokens. That is a very powerful idea, actually. So I'll need to think some more on that. But that certainly has a lot of, making things more like the efficiency gain from that could be quite a lot, especially once you get into not tokens that are representing value, but tokens that are representing transfers between different contracts, right? That means you can pack a lot into one thing. If a contract,
anything, right? Essentially, I mean, we would need a test because right now we're focused on fungible tokens, and again, full disclosure, right? We're definitely taking this from a hackathon perspective at this point, right? But any production, I come from a financial fintech background, so I take that very seriously, right? So having tests and having more proof of testing is definitely important. We have not done that here.
Yes, this is the very move fast and break things type of approach.
Right.
So show us
get the idea into people's hands, right? And it's ShipNet, so I'm not worried about breaking so much, but it's to get the idea in people's hands to like this. We are able to do this, right? We have iterations, so I can. I'll talk about that after.
Yeah. Show us. I'm keen. So I had a test of this before the show, but I think it's really good if we can bring it up live and show people exactly how this would work. This is thrilling for me because it's also like a payoff from Blaze. It's like all the work that we did in Blaze and getting people together, getting people
exactly
to promote things has come through to be actual real, MVPs that we can then take to the next level. So
Wait,
here it
one
is.
second. Wait.
Okay.
Let me just switch out the slide link. Guest one and screen share and loading.
Boom. All right. Walk us through what we're seeing here.
All right. So this is the POC, if you will, and I've loaded the tokens, the images of these tokens. But this is our fund. The default's kind of our 50-50 fund. And there you go. And pretty standard to show the category ID and then the token explorer context as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you can verify it. And then we will have, again, part of production is like you'll have a way to verify the integrity of these things, right? And I'm thinking about that as well. And so this token is comprised of 1,000, 50%, 1,000 bull, 1,000 bear. And so as you can see, so we still got some bugs. So I'm gonna go through connecting my wallet. So it's pretty standard for, I think, for Connect Wallet, right? And I will also disclaim that I've been only testing with Cash and Eyes. We need to test other wallets to make sure their compatibility as well. So once you connect the wallet, it will look up how many bear bull you have. And if you have enough, it'll let you mint. So I can make one token.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, locked. So I need to go back to my wallet to see the transaction. So I can see that I'm losing, should be 1,000. Yep. 1,000 bulls and 1,000 bear. I'm receiving one bear bull. And it costs 2 cents. And I think that we may be able to tighten this up a bit. I haven't verified the calculations that we're doing. But I guess we are also, this may be, oh, I know what this is. So we do have, when you are minting, and I think this is a good thing, right? That the cost isn't too cheap, because there is some worry from myself about like spamming. And then because like you have like this UTXO thread, right? And then like if somebody were to front load it, or like they could essentially DDoS the system if you make it too cheap, right? So we have to lock the dust into your assets when you spend it. So we do get a benefit of increasing the number of locks in a single transaction. So it was 2 cents there. If I increase this to 100, right? So I'm locking 100,000 bear and bull.
It'll still be the same cost, right?
Still 2 cents, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So people can mint, you can mint in en masse, which minimizes the like cost per token. Yeah, right. So then you mint the token, which then is a separate cash token, right? So you've provably locked some funds on chain, and in return, it unlocks you a new cash token.
Yes. So so there was an error, but we'll look into that. And once you have that token, that fund token, exactly, now you can go to the redeem, and then you'd be able to spin that redeem as well.
Well, before you redeemed it, you would be able to do something with it, right? Now you can just send it around. It's just a cash token, right? So you can send it to anybody. You can send it to somebody else. You could use it in some other kind of smart contract or whatever. And there's no expiry time, right? Because the locked coins are going to sit there forever until you unlock them. And that's the only way to unlock them, right? Is to get them out using the redeem.
Correct. I don't know if you're interested in looking at code here, if this is the right context or not. So exactly, these are the contracts. So the contracts are public. The website is not. There had to be some kind of give and take, right? I'm trying to build a business potentially, and so we have 3 contracts. We have the asset contract, which is where the assets actually go, and this is pretty simple. It just is looking for the outflow manager, which checks the entire transaction overall. He does the most of the heavy work, though. He's just calculating that the assets are properly being released, any change is returned. And so exactly, you have to return that fund token to be able to spend those assets and get them out.
But
And
you're
so
minting a fungible token, right? It's not an NFT. So if you lock, let's say, for instance, $5 of parity and $5 of MUSD, and you get out 5 mixed USD, then I spend that mixed USD. Somebody can come back with 2 mixed USD and get back their share of MUSD and parity USD, right? It's not like 5 in, 5 out. It's any amount in, any amount out.
So all of the amounts would be defined at the contract creation. So the fidelity, if you will, right, comes from that. So you can probably go down to as much as 5 cents with the Moria, or 10 cents, right, for the Moria parity, idea. But if you flip on the inverse, there's the cauldron socks, right? They're pretty rare, and I don't think they're divisible. So with this, the way this is defined, you can have the fund token be 1 million to 1 cauldron sock, right? So you could actually give the visibility to tokens that don't have it as well.
Oh wow, that's a cool use case. So you can issue partial shares. Okay.
Yes,
but
it does come down to the creation of the contract. So somebody could, with your Moria parity, scenario, they could define it to be like $5 Moria parity, right? And then, so that definition is the lowest divisibility.
Yes, just before Jet, I'm going to sneak in and ask one more question. So I'm just trying to clarify here that, so if I have $2.50 of parity and $2.50 of MUSD, so I create $5 of mixed USD, right? And let's say I'm the first one to ever do it. So there's only 5 mixed USD in total circulation in the whole world. What I'm trying to get at is it's issuing me 5 mixed USD cash tokens, but I can redeem that. Like I can redeem 2 and leave 3 unredeemed. It's not like it's giving me an NFT receipt for exactly 5 cash tokens, right?
I feel you. I am trying to say that yes, that's the goal, is to make it as divisible as possible, so that you can do the $50, then spend $10, and they can still redeem it, right? That's the goal.
Yes. Okay.
There's just, these systems, there's always edge cases, and I get into the pedantic of it, but the goal is to, so right now we have, we're defining it, like I'm defining these things, right? I'm creating these things. Maybe our first version, phase 1, won't be like that, right? Where I have tight control. Again, it'll be provable. I can't do anything, right? But I have to set it up. I have to define the parameters, right, of the contracts. Long term, the goal is to have these custom, so that anybody can come here and create a new fund token, and the goal again is to do it all on chain, right? So we broadcast the fund, the details, people can look it up, and then be able to recreate the fund tokens, right? And then essentially create an index from that.
Brilliant. So you can have eventually you'll be able to have any ratio of any assets to any other assets in any combination, verifiable, sort of on chain.
And we'll have some validation in place to try to keep people from doing unsmart things, but people do things all the time.
Okay, Jet, what do you got to say?
I got a couple questions. One, I didn't realize that you could only send one type of cash token in a transaction.
Not in a transaction, in a UTXO. You can
Yeah.
put
right.
3 UTXOs in a transaction, but then you obviously have to pay for the bytes to put 3 UTX. It's more outputs, it's more bytes, it's more expensive, right? But if you make a coin that represents those 3, then you could send the one UTXO.
Okay. Noted. Okay. So the second thing is is this capable? Like I know this is just fungible tokens at the moment, but yeah, is this something that can work for NFTs as well?
Yes, and that was actually the Blaze. So this is version 002, my first version, and I will say there is there's a bug in it, so don't use it.
And can you also zoom in on the GitHub code?
Yes.
Thank you.
This was using minting. So you can see here I'm minting and then changing the mint capability here.
Okay, so last question is like, I guess last 2 questions. They're both related though. So one is like, there's all this hype around like NFT art, and what if someone had a collection of that NFT art, and then this fund token then proves that you have access to the collection or something like that?
Right.
Would it be that you use the one token to prove that you have all of the other tokens? Is that something that can happen, or do you have to redeem this token to break it down and then be like, oh, each one of these things is valid?
I see no reason why it can't be used as proof as well.
Okay.
Right. They have to have context of this system, right, and be able to be like, okay, we know this token gives you access to the NFTs, right? But by extension, one thing that I am having trouble wrapping my head around exactly how that works, though, is commitment data, right? Between NFTs are different. And so are they equal, right? That's not true necessarily. Because, and then how do you keep track of that? That becomes, the complexity starts to become harder. Not saying it's not solvable, just becomes harder.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, so like, because the fund, like, as long as somebody understands the concept of this, then you can say, okay, I have my Jeremy Vault, which has, I've minted 1 token, and 1 token represents 1,000 MUSD to prove that I'm a whale, right? Like, and so then I can, if I sign a message from my wallet saying that I own 1 Jeremy Vault, and I show it to you, and as long as you understand all that background knowledge, you know that then I have all that. And then the same way, you could have a fund token that could only be minted if you had at least 10 NFTs out of this set of 100. And if you minted it, then there's no other way to get one of those. You have to have the 10, and they're now locked. So you don't have to go and redeem them to say, I have these 10 things. As long as you can prove that you have the 1, then you prove them that you've got access to the 10, right?
Man, we were talking pre-show about all the scope creep, and I'm like, well, what if you had a private art gallery in the metaverse that used these NFTs?
That's going to be coming, mate. That's going to be coming,
All right, that's cool. I like where this is going. I had no concept of this before the show, and it's like hearing you talk about it's giving me a little thrill.
That's awesome.
It's because it's abstracting the way that BCH works, right? Which is, the blockchain has all the UTXOs. There's 21 million, or there will be. We're nearly at 20 million, by the way, which is kind of interesting. And then otherwise, like that's just it. Like, nobody can just come up with fake nonsense. And the same way that we've now got that for BCH, we can now have that for any combination of BCH virtual assets, and it can be trustworthily and verifiably backed. That's like, the whole financial system is all just, bricks built on bricks, right? And this is that abstraction happening with cash tokens. First we had BCH, then we had BCH and cash tokens, and now we have fund tokens, which are aggregations of BCH and or cash tokens. Well, actually, we had another level. We had BCH, you had cash tokens, then you had like MUSD, which is a cash token collateralized by BCH. And then you can have a fund token, which is the level above that, which is a collateralized cash token of cash tokens or BCH.
Exactly. And so we also, one of our reasons for, focusing on fungible tokens too, right out the gate, is there's a lot, we feel like there's a bit more ecosystem development around the fungible tokens, right? Cauldron trades. Tap swap is great, but the liquidity is not quite there. The NFTs, they just, there's just more questions around that, and the immediate usability. And we're trying to get the most use right with right away, right?
One more question.
I also have one more question.
I need to let my dog in.
I'm just wondering, is there any limitation to this? Like, could you just have like 4 of these combined tokens, then combine those up? And like,
no, of course, yeah, of course you could do that. That's the whole point. It's arbitrarily abstract. It's recursive. So somebody will make, you can make a mixed USD, MUSD and PUSD. You mint mixed USD, which now has the risk spread across those 2 projects, which themselves are on-chain collateralized, but maybe something will go wrong there. And then once somebody has mixed USD, you can make a basket of mixed USD with, mixed gold or whatever, and then you index of all the Moria products plus all of the parity products. Or you could invest in an industry, or you could do it with fund. Now we're getting the brain to
Right.
fund me. It could be like, if I contribute to someone's fund me, I get back one of these tokens as a receipt, which is how it already works. But the receipt could be unlocking some further benefits in a fund or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like reverse airdrops, right? Because right now, if we sent out Bliss NFTs, right? Everyone had Bliss bells. They had Velmas and Laylas and they had Jessicas and they had Velmas, right? And we could airdrop them the Blaze tokens. But this is the reverse, where we can have the tokens and people unlock them by showing up with the the required key to access the vault, kind of idea.
You have to spin them in this system, but it could be evolved to have signatures and stuff like that as well. And then, so I would like to see this. So this is fixed basket, right? Kind of system, right? Everything, once you define it, they're kind of fixed ratios. The next evolution that I could see, which becomes hard, is because you have to really oracleize a lot of data, right? But you could, once you start having relative price information, right? Now you can start thinking about rebalancing, right? Funds, right? Now they can start working like real asset tools, that traditional asset tools, right? You can have managers, trusted managers that are maintaining the fund that can rebalance it. You could have, systems where it's always the top 15 of Cauldron, right? With this ratio, right? And it rebalances once a month or whatever, right? The rules kind of are pretty flexible. Some of the, yeah, exactly. It becomes, some of it becomes is like, how do you do it? And there are trade-offs. So we were talking, and I kind of wanted to bring it up a little bit, was the lower block times, right? I know you're a big fan of it, Jeremy.
Yes.
And I know every programmer, engineer's initial reaction is hesitation. I am too, right? Because it's a large change, it's complex, right? And we're talking about KISS. I think you'll always have people that want to drive that time down, but the whole, right, always is a compromise in decentralized systems, right? So I think if this, I think there's been a lot of work, and it can, if the data is there to prove it, I'm for it. I'm not for it for the, I guess just for the just for the sake of, no, I don't want to say that, but like
You're just not like arbitrarily in favor of it. It's kind of like
yeah,
a caveat with like it has to make sense, obviously.
and like thinking long term, like what happens as this system scales, right? Does that still work? Because to me, block reorgs kind of are more harmful, especially probably from DeFi, right? And I think some of this, the problem is, I also don't maybe understand all of the DeFi problems, but thinking of this system, right, is what I kind of has got the wheels spinning, right? Is so like how do the as the system scales, right? As I have these UTXO fund tokens, right, and the contention over that increases, right? Luckily for my system, it doesn't matter because it shouldn't matter necessarily because it's always the same value on inside out, regardless of order, right? But like if you got into a system where you're trying to spend my UTXO to close some other contract, right, where you like pile them up together, I've seen, or combine them together, how does contention work then, right? And I'm thinking of like, how do you split? Can I increase the threads, right? Because like, so Wi-Fi, right, works where you essentially you have two devices come online, they both broadcast, they collision, they can't really decide, they shouldn't both try to re-grab the same airwave again, right? So they like randomly wait. What if we had multiple UTXOs and you could randomly choose which one to spin, right? So long story short is, can we engineer some of the problems away? Some of it social, right? And then with some of the problems that can't engineer away, is L2 a thing on Bitcoin Cash? I feel like I don't know enough, but I'd be interested in like just like because I've seen like chains, right? There's side chains that can run their own rules, right?
Yeah, well, it's possible. Like, I don't think, and it's such a fun that like that's the funniest thing is that nobody on BCH that I've ever heard of ever is against layer 2. Nobody is against it. It's just like, well, you could just have layer 2s and a good layer 1. Why? It's not important to have a layer 2 because your layer 1 is broken. It's like have a good layer 1 and have a good layer 2. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yes.
So everybody, I think, like that makes sense, and maybe people will find a use case for that. So it's possible that we could do a layer 2 to this point that had 1 minute blocks, and then we could test it out like that. I guess that's possible. You could, well, I'm sure it's possible, but I'm just thinking realistically what that would involve. Like, but there would be a lot of setting up the infrastructure and so forth, but we could do it where
and I'll be first to say I'm not like SME, right? I'm not a subject matter expert. I defer to you guys in Bitcoin Cash research. I think you guys have done there's great conversations, there's great research. I've been happy with the changes, right? They've been pragmatic, that's, again, I come, I've been in fintech and trying to, release, how build, I focus on the software engineering aspect, all the other stuff is to me a little easier, but people I think forget the software engineering, the business side, right? Of like, how do all these things come together? And that's where I've been focused on. And I think given everything that's happened, Bitcoin Cash has taken pragmatic approaches, is increasing the usability, right? With, all change has a risk, but, it's all the trade-off, right? You have to add functionality, you got to make changes, but the changes have been sensible. Again, adding cash tokens native, right? That's huge to me. Like,
yeah, just quickly on the DeFi contention. Well, that's also where I feel like the 1 minute blocks is hopefully going to help in that regard, because like you said, it's possible that people are submitting, like Bitcoin is to resolve double spends, right? So it's possible that people have double spends, and the idea of lowering the block time is just that you get to the resolution of that double spend faster. Because right now, if there is a double spend, you only know which side won once a new block comes in and you find out which one's in and which one's out. And you really only know for sure once that's had like 6 blocks and you can see, okay, definitely the network is going this way and not the other way, right? Like when you have no blocks, you're not sure. When you have 1 block, you're like mostly sure. And then when you have 6 blocks, you're like pretty sure. Well, even though lowering the time reduces the amount of proof of work, so it's still only 1/10 of the proof of work for each block, that's the dynamic still plays into it because the block has hopefully, presumably, propagated around the network. So like 1 confirmation of 1 minute is not as good as 1 confirmation of 10 minutes because it's only 1/10 of the proof of work. But it's better than 10% as good because you know that that's like actually locked in. Somebody has actually spent their proof of work on it, right? So like 3 or 4 1-minute blocks might even be better than 1 10-minute block. There's less proof of work, but you've had the whole network check in 3 or 4 times during that period, right? So, you know, do you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. No, it's an interesting take. You know, I think these are dials. You know, there's no, people talk about scale as if it's a on-off thing, but that's not how real engineering works, right? You know, it scales, you know, not too well, you know, scales okay, you know, scales great, you know, so, right? Those are kind of the words more that, because it's, you know, there's always potentially room for improvement, but, you know, there's always give and takes, right, for these systems. So I don't know. I don't know. You know, I don't, again, I want to look at more data to make sure it's safe, right, first, before anything like happens. Like, is it technologically safe for that to happen? Because at the end of the day, it's a technological project, right? I would challenge whether or not some of this contention can't be designed around, right? Again, going back to, so again, my UTXO for, I think I'm still sharing, right? For the fund, right? If I keep all of my fund in one UTXO on this contract, right? That's the contention, right? So if millions of people are using it per minute, right, then the chances of people double spending is high, right? But can I design it so that there's multiple UTXOs? This system actually works that way. I'm pretty sure. I haven't proven it, but I'm pretty sure it would. You know, logically in my head, I've thought it through, right? Same with the other ones, right? That was kind of what I was aiming for. So
it's just like Cauldron. Yeah, it's like a Cauldron has, you know, a bunch of those micro pools. It would be the same way, right? You could have a bunch of these threads which can each mint out the new ones and or redeem for the incoming ones, right? It should be similar, right?
Yeah. And then there will always be things where you can't do that, can't engineer out. So, you know, I kind of think of the high frequency traders, right? There's always going to be somebody that wants it faster. You know, at what point do we say that compromises too much? And then that goes back to the data, like block, you know, reorgs are kind of probably, if we get those, I mean, they essentially never happen from my understanding, you know, and so if they happen frequently, then all of a sudden, you know, confirmation is definitely less, you know, you start discarding confirmation now, you start ignoring it, right? Confirmation now, I see it, that's, to me, it's for the amount of value I'm doing, nobody's going to try to double spend against the value I'm doing, right? So 1 confirmation is enough for me. I understand that businesses, exchanges, you know, they want more, but that's risk tolerance and that's them getting burned from Bitcoin, you know, and there's a trade-off to just catering to I've been in businesses that have done that, where they, you know, sales will sell every feature, you know, that the customer wants. You know, we're always chasing that, and it was hard to ever you know, focus on the future and doing things that actually benefit, you know, because we're always chasing the latest gimmick, if you will. So I just challenge whether or not, you know, it's the right thing to do. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible.
I think you guys do great of conversation, so I think you guys are on the right path. So
no, I think it's very important to talk about. And I mean, one of the reasons that I don't think 1 minute blocks is a fad. Well, firstly, like we're talking about with the UTXOs, I mean, the UTXO model is great. So if somebody unwinds, a future transaction, then it ripples back. Yeah. So if somebody redeemed their fund, got the tokens out, and then misspent the tokens, and then the original thing, it would unwind like all the way back, right? So and that's not mutually better design and faster block times are not mutually exclusive. You can have both. It's actually better to have both. You just have a better design and you have the faster blocks. Absolutely. But I don't think faster blocks is a fad, because every crypto ever since BTC was invented essentially has lowered the block time, and nobody has been like, crap, that was a mistake, let's increase it again. Like, that's never happened. There's no coin who's like shit out there shilling, we've got 1 hour blocks, we're so mega decentralized. Like, they have 0% market share. Anybody with a greater than 10-minute block time has 0 or rounding to 0, market share. So like it's just very clear across the industry that it's both desired and very useful and sustainable in my mind. But of course, yeah.
I mean, I'm not again deep enough in it to that's just my perspective. Again, coming kind of again, it's dials, right? That's
yes.
You're trying to turn that dial. They just know that's going to have an effect, right?
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more then so was there anything else in the demo? We've seen the minting, we've talked about the things you can do, and then the redeeming, right?
Yeah, so I showed the 50-50. And this is, if anybody comes join our Telegram group or post on Twitter at fun tokens_cash, I'll happily send you some tokens so you can try this system out, right? But we made some other funds just so people can kind of get a better wrap around, hopefully understanding. Just 25-75, the bear is winning. I don't know. And then hopefully, we want the bull winning. So.
So you can redeem the tokens. Yeah. Okay. And is there anything more to the what you have now, or is that's, as I understand it, that's kind of the feature set?
Yep, that's just shows the concept of be able to mint, redeem, and then I was just showing multiple funds. So everything that's after this is going to be about improving the experience, right? And we have you've seen the design, so we have a facelift. Should be in the works. If not, it'll be coming, right? And then the focus will be also we're going to scale the number of tokens that you can have that make up a fund, and then we're also going to make it a system so that users, right, can make their own funds, so that you don't have to come to me to make a fund, set it up, right? This be a fund that anybody can use, and the idea is I'll have a set of contracts. There'll be a pipeline of contracts essentially that will take you through the setup to ensure the integrity of the system, right? And then this goes back to be able to prove, right, everything, right?
And so what's the release date that we're looking at for this?
TBD.
Okay.
So no, realistically, I'm doing this for free, right? I'm not getting paid. So I have a job, Anders done, I've done, so I work, now we're, from, right before I go to bed, if I get that, to work on the contracts. And then Anders been working on the page a lot, and then I have somebody else that he's working on the facelift. So we're all kind of, doing a little bit, but we're also focused on some other priorities as well. So I would love to be focused on this 100% of my day, but I need
funding. Well, let's talk about it a little bit then. How are we going to get you that funding? So tell me a little bit about, maybe just briefly, what was your experience with Blaze and how that Or when you mentioned that this idea came from somebody actually offering a bounty, so it's nice to see that progression of things, right? We did Blaze, somebody offered a bounty, you jumped on it, you made the project. Now we have a proof of concept, and then so start with a bit of a retrospective on Blaze for me.
So you did ask the question about ways to improve, and I think you brought up was just the and being in BCH 1, the time I guess spent where the biddles were allowed to sit and team building. Seems like in BCH 1 I'm getting way more people asking to be on my team than at BCH 1 or Blaze. Maybe it was the timing of the year, right? It was right closer to the end of the year. BCH 1 is really picking up after the new year as well, right? And I had posted at the end of last year, my biddle. That's the big kind of the just getting the people together, getting people to be able to submit ideas, not necessarily having to do the ideas, right? I think we were talking about my company's hackathon last time. We have a couple weeks where we can submit our ideas, and then some people will submit multiple ideas. They'll captain maybe, and then have teams. But there just seemed more time to ideate and build those teams. And so BCH 1, there's been a little bit help with, I had a designer come to me, so that was nice, right? Because I'm not a designer. I can implement designer designs, right? But I can't, I'm not great at coming up with new ones, right? So that was kind of, but the bounties, that was great to have, because ideas are like you said, some ideas are huge, right? And how do you finish an idea in a hackathon, when you have 2 weeks, if that? And so having bounties that were of other people's ideas that were a bit more focused, there's an incentive, right? You've dangled a carrot, and then so now it's easier to be motivated to go after it, right? And so that was helpful. It helped that this idea was a great one, right, to start off with, and I've kind of realized that could actually be so much more, right? So there's always those gems, I think, in the hackathons too, right?
Amazing. And then you've carried the project through into BCH 1, so you're starting to get momentum. I've been following a little bit the chatter that's going on there, but I haven't been deep in all how that's working. Maybe give us your perspective of how that program is being, like you said, maybe they gave a little bit more time for things to come together. Teams have been talking in there and people have been finding you. Explain that.
I don't know if the project's just, I communicated this project a little bit better, or there's more people that are involved that have driven the interest, seemingly. Of course, Ander was immediately on board, so that was half the team right there. I would say that the kind of the timeline's been a little bit less structured, which has created confusion. I'm sure you've seen in the chat. There's some when can we start on things? Should we start on things? Because nobody wants to get disqualified. Luckily, I came in with an idea that we knew we were going to execute, and we were going to probably execute it regardless, right? And so we got a head start in that regard. But they're definitely, I would say the chatter's good. I mean, it's great to see people interested, right? There's so much excitement around BCH right now. So
amazing, very, very cool. And so then that kind of comes to funding. So obviously BCH 1 is maybe one way that could be raised. Also, we have fundme.cash, still very popular and still a decent amount of funding going through there. Have you considered doing that? Or if it wasn't going to be that, what other ideas do you have, if any, for ways to get this project funded and monetized and make it sustainable?
On funding, BCH1 is probably the first priority, and then FundMe would be great to follow up. I think if we didn't have the funding, it's really just it'll probably happen. It'd just be slower, right, to happen. A lot of the things because it's just harder to. I would say again, if it weren't for my team, we wouldn't be this far, right? So having a team that I can help, that I can guide, right, that's been immensely helpful to move this along, as I can get everybody kind of working right and manage. So yeah, it's definitely in the cards, right? I think for monetization though, the idea probably, I think with with Web3, right, most people are probably at least akin to a little bit paying for services. So fund creation will probably definitely have a charge, again, to prevent spam mostly, but it will pay for services, right? I'm running this website. I'm running, I've bought the domain, so I've spent money on this thing already, right? And so it'll probably be just embedded in transactions, but redeem and minting, it'll either be sub-cent, close to cent. I haven't defined the rules. If I were to get investment, I'm sure the pool of people with the stakeholders increase, right, and then the pool of ideas increases. So I'm not sure yet. Right now it's just a little baby that I just want to see work, I guess, and get people excited about.
Yeah, so a couple quick things from the chat. Cash Dragon has said would hate to mint 100k vault and then the app is gone 6 months later. So obviously we're going to have maybe XO templates in the future, and also maybe even with AI, like you said, if the contracts are open source, hopefully it's going to get easier and easier that even if your front end is not there, people can still redeem their tokens, right? That's 100%. Not going to be a risk.
So that's again going back to at least my team, and we're focused on definitely trying to do everything on chain, minimize the trusted, anything that can prevent that from occurring, right? Systems going down. So I have wrapped up this transaction builder, so the idea would be to have something easy for people to plug into to create their own transactions. And then the categories would all be come out public, once we get to this point, right?
Yes.
So yeah, the goal to create these by yourself would be definitely possible, and encouraged.
Yeah, people don't have to worry about getting rugged. Again, with that's why the whole beauty of the cash tokens being verified and everything is that it's all auditable. And at the end of the day, even if there is a disaster, somebody can rebuild something to let you unlock the money, so you don't have to worry about it ever going away. Also, Kyle Ben 7982 says, "Love the token ideas. I would love an XMR quote unquote token on BCH. To me, the only useful currencies are BCH and XMR, and pushing for more interoperability would help both projects," which I think is true. And there is the what's it called? The atomic swaps at AxeSwap. So we do have that, but I'm expecting at some point somebody is going to make a token like this where you lock BCH into a token and mint something that has the same privacy properties as Monero. It has that same, that can all be scripted in there. Just it's very difficult to do because it's advanced cryptography and the scripts are still underdeveloped. But I believe that's the direction that things are going in. So I guess you would probably be thrilled to see that happen. I don't know anyone who wouldn't, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think any use case, again, programmable, anything programmable on Bitcoin, right, is exciting to me.
Brilliant. Okay. All right. Anything final you want to say about fund tokens before we move
on? Join Telegram. Tell us, influence the product. Again, the point of the software is for the people. I have an idea of how it could be used, but there's always new ideas, new inspiration, right? And so.
All right. Brilliant. Okay. Well, now it's my turn to demo something. I have released this week the very first implementation of BChat. So this was my concept as I was thinking. I've been working on it actually for quite a while, but I did quite a lot of work on it maybe 6 months ago or something, and I've just been too busy to actually get it over the line. But recently, with some help from Claude, I have been able to rapidly accelerate out the MVP. So the concept is a Twitter clone, but using Nostr as the backend. For people who don't know, Nostr, notes and other, what's it called? Notes and other stuff transmissible via relay is basically like, it's like the blockchain, but for text, basically. The idea is to have an uncensorable network of nodes that relay information around. So it is for exactly this use case, like the back end of Twitter, but nobody could ban you off of Twitter, because the same way that nobody can ban you off of BCH, if one wallet doesn't work for you, you can just go to another wallet. Same idea. The Nostr relays are just open to anyone. So if somehow you published all this information on BChat and then we stopped doing BChat, you could just go to another Nostr client and plug in your keys and get all your information back. So my concept is that this not only will give BCH a more resilient place for us to discuss it, because it's good that we have Twitter, we have Telegram, we have the podcast, we have all these different channels. But of course, the algorithms are always being manipulated against us and so forth. So I thought, okay, finally, we just probably, same as everything, we just need to build our own if we want one that is actually truly, fair and resilient. So this is my attempt to do that. But the other thing that it does is that it has BCH tipping integrated into the platform. So currently it is 5 or 6 cents to post. It's actually fixed in sats, but I can't remember. Maybe it's like 10,000 or 12,000 sats to make a post, which almost every person who has tried it starts off and says, isn't that too expensive? Like 6 cents to make a post. But the catch is that it costs 4 cents to reply and 2 cents to send a like. So if you make a 6 cent post that is good enough to have 2 people comment on it, then you have actually made money on your post. It hasn't cost you anything. It's actually made you money. So this is my experimental way of increasing the information flow between Bitcoin caches on a new censorship resistant venue. It's available right now at bchat.cash, which will load up a Selene wallet in your browser. Just like app.selene.cash, but we've got the experimental version. So bchat.cash. Warning, it is experimental. So A, back up your seed phrase, and B, only use a very small amount of sats, and C, be understanding that this is very new. So it works, but it's quite clunky and slow and occasionally has bugs and is broken. So that's kind of the concept. I don't know if you've given this a go, Miguel, but maybe if you haven't, we can just try it on stream right now and see how it goes.
I think I need to update my phone so I didn't work, but see if I can. Looks like it works in a browser too, right?
Yeah, so it's just in a browser. Yeah, so it only works in the browser. Actually, we don't have it. We haven't put it in the Selene Wallet app just yet. It's only in the browser. But I'm just rapidly iterating it and just pushing up new versions pretty fast. One thing other people have also asked frequently is, so when you go on, it uses your same wallet seed phrase to generate your Nostr public keys. So obviously your keys, your seed phrase is then your backup, not only for your BCH funds and your cash tokens, but also for your Nostr profile. Now, right now, it doesn't have any identification. Like anybody can set their name or their profile image to anything. So please just don't be an asshole and try to, pretend to be some known figure that you're not right now. But we will add a way to change that. In fact, fund tokens might be quite useful for that, because we could maybe make it that to verify yourself as a certain person. We could have a system of, blue or green checks or maybe different tiers. And to get that reserved name, you would have to have a fund token showing that you had locked a certain amount of value behind your profile. Jet, I don't know if you can pull up BChat here so we can show people a little bit on screen. Obviously, we have a screenshot here, but it's basically exactly like Twitter if you've used it. But I've been keen to see quite a few people have been jumping in. Cash Dragon, Nemesis, Bitcoin Jason, Bruno. Who else have we had here? Callisti was posting a bit yesterday. Several other people. So shout out to anybody and everybody that has been, here it is, who has been participating in it. Have you tried it, Jet? What did you think of BChat?
I opened it before the stream, and I did also have questions about this. So Memo itself isn't open source, but the protocol is. So I'm curious why the choice to go with Nostr rather than just adding essentially the Memo protocol so that you could read what's already been posted and use the same kind of mechanisms. And they've already figured out name reservation and things like that. So,
well, that's right. So there's one key difference. There's maybe a couple of key differences with Memo to Cash. So the first difference is obviously it's me and Callisti that are driving this, and we have a lot of our own ideas. So if we did it with the Memo team, well, we'd have to talk to them about it. And I just kind of want to bet on myself. So I'm just kind of we're just going to do our own thing so we can do it the way we want it. But unlike Memo, so on Memo, the op returns, the actual text of what you're writing goes in the op return and gets stored on the blockchain, which is fine. That's one way of doing it. But it means A, that you're paying for those extra bytes, and B, that it's all on the chain, right? So we've tried to separate it instead. So the payments of BCH are happening on the blockchain, but the actual data of what you're writing is happening on Nostr. So that has given us kind of a separation there, which means that you don't have to pay based on the actual text itself being embedded into the blockchain. And also that conceivably it could be more private. Now, right now it isn't, of course, because anybody can just look up the Nostr relays, just like anybody can put up the blockchain. But it's possible in the future we can maybe offer sub-circuits of private Nostr relays or something like that, so that then people can have a version of BChat which does not have everything just being pushed straight onto the blockchain, verifiable, sort of forever. Also, people have been talking about forever, we need BCH, Nostr communities. What about all these Nostr apps, blah, blah, blah. And so I wanted to experiment with the tech. So that's one reason that we do it. And I believe Callisti is also fairly impressed. He's been quite interested. He hasn't been heavily involved in doing BChat so far, but he likes the idea. And I think there's so much infrastructure and stuff that they have made in Nostr that we are benefiting from because it already exists and it's already there.
So what about because I think Memo is in my mind dead, which I hate to say because I used it for 2 or 3 years, pretty regularly. I think the biggest issue were things essentially social, blocking and stuff. It's so difficult to actually implement that. But as a means to get the stragglers who are still on Memo, what about just hooking it up so that you can read Memo posts? But if you make a post, it's only on BChat, essentially. So
that's a good idea. Yeah, we should. And it's one of the other things that we might consider as well is Twitter scraping as well, so that people can also have something they can maybe see posts that have come from somewhere else, but they can be discussing it amongst themselves on BChat. That's definitely something we would like to do. And it's also worth noting that because we've made this separation between the BCH payments and the actual text, it doesn't have to be Nostr, right? So some people like Simplex or Matrix or any of these other things, if there's any kind of open text transmission protocol, whether it has better privacy features or whatever, then that could conceivably be implemented into BChat in the same way. As long as there's a way for you to tag a post with a BCH address, which is just some text, right? It's just a string of text, metadata, along with, who posted it, what was their BCH address, that's it. Then you can have the exact same thing. So in the future, it might be that BChat will have a filter where you can filter for the post coming from Memo, the post coming from Nostr, the post coming from Simplex, maybe the integration with Telegram or
We're just
Twitter.
going to go back to RSS.
That's right, exactly. Just going to implement, well, maybe. So we're just going to implement everything probably eventually. But we've started with Nostr because that's what I was interested in doing.
Okay, so I can make like anonymous posts. Like I haven't filled out anything, right? I can just send this 6 cents, make a post.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Let's give it
you'll need to put some BCH in your wallet first, but yeah, you can just do that. And then, so the money that you pay for the posts goes to us at Selene, right? So this is one way that we're thinking about how we're going to fund the development of Selene in the long term. Well, here's one way that we can do it is people posting on BChat pays us, and then people replying and liking are paying each other, right? That's the general concept. So we are trying to find it because this idea of a BCH or a Bitcoin-based social media has been around for a long time, right? Twitch have done it. Obviously, Nostr is very popular in the Lightning and the BTC community, et cetera, right? And so BCH kind of needs Memo, of course, as well. But BCH needs to really compete in that space. And I'm hoping that we can do it with BChat. Now, once you actually start using it, it generates actually a good amount of transactions because every post is a transaction. Oh, here we go. Check out fun tokens. Let me just repost that bad boy. And every like and interaction also is generating more transactions. So pretty quickly, you can find that. Here we go. That should pop up on my feed in just a moment. Pretty quick, like so far, BChat among the, 20 or so people we've had trying it would have generated so many transactions, hundreds of transactions, I'm sure, because it's every interaction among people. Is that you there, Miguel, posting shilling fund cash? Yes. And then I'm just going to tip you a little bit as well. And so you can send a custom tip to any post. Let me send you $1. And your wallet should, look there, you got your notification, your little red notification that you can see in the top right-hand corner. If you scroll up to the top, there you go. I just tipped you $1. Looks like your wallet hasn't updated in the balance, but that's something we've got to fix. There it goes. Boom. There you go. So that's it. You're now making money shitposting. Can you do that on Memo? I assume you can. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. So the same thing here, right? You have the tip button next to every post, and when you like people's post, that sends them 2 cents. So before you know it, you've ended up making and receiving quite a lot of transactions, because pretty quickly you just forget that you're kind of transacting BCH. And that's my idea, is that BCH adoption can't get much more easier than this. It's just doing something you would already be doing,
I like.
Yes. I think it's like 4 cents or 5 cents, something like that.
I kind of like that cost, quote unquote, so much, because it's an anti-spam mechanism, right? Goes into this, like, if I'm spamming, it becomes harder to scale without generating some kind of value. And then hopefully, right, I've been thinking about this, is like really, maybe you don't like just stop spammers, right? You just price them out, right?
Yes, exactly.
Or start taking their money, like, because, but there's also, of course, people can, once they know the system, right, they can always, like, how do they game it? This will always be people like that, and I don't blame them, right? But I think this is cool. I think it's great to be, because like you said, it's 2 interactions and it's almost paid, for itself, right? And you're not selling data, right? That's the big thing about Web3, right? And Fun Tokens paying for itself even, right? Is like, we're not selling anything except for the service, right?
Yes.
That's what you're paying for.
Exactly. That's right. So by paying to post on BChat, yeah, it has those functions. Like you said, it prices out spam, because if you're, here we go. Kyle Benzel has also jumped in straight from the chat. I assume it's working. Welcome to BChat. Like I said, please everybody be understanding the sort of, it can be a bit buggy in terms of things don't refresh instantly, or maybe a post here or there gets lost. But we are trying to iterate it fairly rapidly in that regard. And hopefully, they say make it work, make it good, make it fast, right? We're kind of on the make it work type of step. But like you said, it prices out spammers, and it already has, or maybe not the live version, but certainly the next version that is coming has that I'm looking at has more advanced filters. So you can filter right now. There's a 5-cent filter because that's the minimum, but you can then filter for what are the posts that have the most money tipped to them up at any threshold. So you could say, I only want to see posts that have been paid at least $1, or posts that have been paid at least $5. Or maybe in the future there'll be whale chat, where people go on BChat and they'll pay $100 to make a post because they really want everyone to see it, and then that will be at the top of any filter.
Like advertising, at that
exactly.
point, right?
That's right. Yeah, but you're paying directly. There's no mystifying it, right? So you can go. It's like, if somebody's willing to pay $100 for this memo post, they must this BChat post. They must have something pretty serious to say, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's worth your attention to have a brief look at it, because the proof of work via the BCH has been embedded directly into the posts we're making. And so that's also, I'm interested to see how that dynamic plays out too.
Yeah. And you're talking about algorithms. I think the algorithm is still good, right? Because it people for whether or not it's good or bad, that keeps them in tune. But once you're scaling, right, the number of users, right, go up, right, and because otherwise you lose if you're like just seeing latest, right? Like I've seen on Memo, right, you'll see posts of people posting the same thing over and over and over and over again, right? It's like you kind of ignore it, and then if you see too much of it, then it becomes a bad experience, right?
Exactly.
So censorship, filtering, right, are, because it would be local censorship, right? I don't want to see this Nazi, I have to deal with a lot of those guys right now, right? So, hide those guys, so.
Yes.
But no.
Well, hang on a second. So, firstly, on that, just before I forget, so we will add more and more custom controls as well, so that people can set their algorithm to work exactly how they want. Like you said, obviously you can also follow people, and then you can set it to following, or you can unfollow. So you can already kind of control your feed by following people, same as anything else. But in the future, we will add more and more controls so that people can have any sort of algorithm they want. And it's pretty crazy as well, too, when you think about it in combination with cash tokens, because we'll be able to make it that you'll be able to set it to see only the feed of. So right now you can only tip BCH, right? But in the future, you'll be able to tip cash tokens. Well, you already technically can using manually, but we'll add it in so you can send cash tokens. And then you'll be able to see the community of any given cash token talking in real time. And you can be... So I think that's going to be a cool thing. What is this empty post? I think it's probably just a bug. There's nothing special going on. But you see how if you click on the paid for any specific post, you can see the BCH address is listed there. And then so you can already send cash tokens to people, but it won't be recognized and picked up by BChat specifically at the moment. Okay, all right. That's something we're going to have to add. I did add the I did add the markdown, but I only added a simple. It's not the complete markdown spec. It's only backticks, inline, bold, italic, strike through. I think, but yeah,
Are you able to delete post or edit?
No, there's no. That's a good point about editing. Editing, I'm going to need to look into. Deleting also needs to be looked into because you can't unretrieve. It's like the blockchain. You can't unretrieve things from Nostr once it's been sent to all the relays. It's spread around the relays. That's it. But the way that, like, for instance, profiles work, where you write your profile name in photo, they then have a reference to that, and then you can re-sign a post to overwrite that and build up. So then there would be a way to add editing of posts, but I haven't done that yet. So that's.
Could you even show the history, so in case somebody were trying to change it in a.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. Editing of posts with reviewable history. That's a good point. We're going to add that. And what was Jet's thing? It was multi-line markdown comments. It wasn't working. Okay. So yeah, anyway, this is my, Callisti says the relays can respect a delete event. It's optional though. And same with edits. Yeah. So sort of depends on the relays, but ultimately it's the same as the blockchain. Once the information's out there, it's out there. There's no way to kind of undo it. But the front end can do
inline front end that overlays it in some way, just so that, like, if I do a post of a release date or I mess it up right, I don't have to. You just
we can definitely support it as part of our front end as well too. And so this is also important, I think, for people to understand. So BChat is right now just my way to start get some conversation going and get a little bit of tipping happening. I've been thrilled with that. It's actually been pretty popular. More and more people have been jumping in there and chatting every day. Of course, please report any bugs and issues. Understand it's still experimental, etc. But it is advancing rapidly as and when I get the time to work on it. But this is just the start of what I want to do, is have a sort of BCH dashboard so that you can get all of your BCH information. Because once you have people using Selene in this way with BChat, well, firstly, you can have BChat in all the other wallets as well too. Cash and Eyes can have it, Paytalker can have it. So everybody can. That's another good reason to use Nostr or the blockchain, but Nostr as well, is that everyone can just plug into that, so people can make their own BChat interfaces. But
payments would still go to you though, right? In that scheme.
Well, no, because they can add in their version of it. They can change the default post address to be them. So there's the payments part is only enforced at the level. It's not enforced at the Nostr level. It's only enforced at the level of the wallet. So if somebody made a separate one, then they could, charge a different amount for posts. Now, I'll need to talk to them once they start doing that. So somebody can make a Nostr front end, which doesn't cost anything to post, doesn't cost anything to tip, etc. But I'm hoping that people won't do that because they'll understand the spam resistance and they'll start having fun with it, and they'll think it's actually better with the pay to post. But of course, somebody who's a real cheapskate can make a free to use one if they want. There's no way to enforce that without sort of paid relays, which we might get to in the future also if people are freeloading on it too much. But we'll see. If it gets popular enough that people are trying to make spin-offs and so forth, then it's already succeeded in my mind.
Form of best flattery, right?
Yeah, exactly. It can go in other wallets, but then it will also be like a hub for BCH stuff. We can have a countdown for when the next BCH bank run is happening that like runs in the corner or on the side, or puts an automated post in the feed would be pretty cool as well. We can have announcements for new projects that are launching. We can have the Fund Me, so that you can go on Fund Me, like you can launch a Fund Me and then it will just show up in everyone's feed and people can just donate directly out of BChat, saying, you know, maybe you just like it, or maybe there's just a few little suggested amount buttons. You just click one and boom, you've already donated to that with a little, you know, progress bar, exactly how Fund Me works.
Oh, that would be cool. Even like integrating some donations into your post.
Exactly.
I'm gonna do 6 cents to post, 1 cent to donate.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So here's all my Goblin posts that I made when I was testing the different accounts. Yeah, but anyway, that's kind of the long and short of it. Please experiment with it and enjoy, guys, at bchat.cash, and of course give us any feedback about how you find it. It's a developing system, but should be fun, and hopefully we can start to drive some serious BCH transactions. So in the time you've been using that, Jet, you've probably made 10 transactions at least, right? Or more in the last 10 minutes, right? Yeah, like it quickly adds up, and it's obviously something we've been talking about on this show, that it's been very, here we go. Like at least 10 or 12 transactions. It's the kind of thing that, because it's so easy to use, you forget that you're even using BCH at all. And BCH is yet to get a viral breakthrough app that can generate us, you know, megabytes of traffic consistently per day. So my hope is this is maybe how we can do it.
Have you heard of Vox? Vox.cash?
Vox?
He has a chat feature as well.
Okay. Vox.cash. That here we go. An alpha. Oh, right. Okay, I see. Well, that might be something I'll need to look into afterwards then. Yeah, similar sort of idea. That's another thing people also suggest pretty consistently is like, okay, there's the Twitter style of conversation, and then there's the Telegram style channels with people, you know, talking one by one, all in a stream. That's also something I would like to add, but we're just starting with the Twitter style first. But maybe in the future, you know, it seems like the community has a role for those two different sort of interfaces, and we can integrate them somehow, or have two different options or what have you, so that people can have both either way. All right, moving on then. We have community comment of the week, Brian versus the bankers. This was not that one, the other community comment of the week, although Balaji is also good. But we had here Brian Armstrong talking to Francois Villeroy de Galhou about Bitcoin. So let's have a quick little listen to what he had to say.
Governor, you have to address this. Is the euro in danger from a Bitcoin standard?
No, I'm a bit skeptical, Brian. Sorry to say it, about this idea of the Bitcoin standard. We left the gold standard, but the gold was only a technical mean. What is important is what you say, Bert, that monetary policy and money is part of sovereignty. And we live in democracies, and I think the public role is key. And if we lose that, really you lose a key function of democracy. That said, I always keep repeating that money, as long as it exists for centuries, has been a public-private partnership. You need a public anchor, whatever its form is. Remember, and silver and gold were sovereign assets, so it was on the public side. And then you had banknotes, and you will have CBDC. But anyway, the most important part of payments is in the private sphere, and this is the development of tokenized private money. But this tokenized private money must be regulated to inspire trust. confidence.
It's fascinating that you say that. Brian, you mentioned a complementary role that you could play.
So I think that crypto is very good for fiat currencies. It's very good. Bitcoin is like good as a check and balance on deficit spending, because when there is a lack of trust, or people, from like in a U.S. context, if people are worried about inflation, or maybe in places like Argentina or Turkey or Nigeria, they are going to flee to the thing that they believe is going to store value more. So I think in general, it's going to be very complementary. And like you said, I think it comes down to trust. And so if fiat currencies can maintain trust and not have, the money printer kind of debasing everybody, then they'll survive. But if countries that have bad behavior on that dimension, Bitcoin doesn't have a money printer. The supply is fixed, and people will go to it in times of uncertainty, kind of like they did with gold.
The guarantee for trust is independence on central bank side. And we have a core mandate, and we are accountable to that. But sorry to say that I trust more independent central banks with a democratic mandate than private issuers of Bitcoin, which have a very useful role. But
Bitcoin is a decentralized protocol. There's actually no issuer of it. So that's in the sense that central banks have independence. Bitcoin is even more independent. There's no country or company or individual who controls it in the world. And so anyway, I think it's a healthy competition, because if people can decide which one they trust more, and I think it's actually the greatest accountability mechanism on deficit spending.
Bill.
There we go. So this is actually what we're dealing with, guys. Just it is the year 2026. And these central bankers at the World Economic Forum, who are trying to gaslight everyone that, there's so much accountability in the banking system, and we are held accountable, and we have so much trust in the system. Just A, they don't realize that Bitcoin is eating their lunch, and B, they've never even looked into it. I can't believe that he will not even know the concept that there is no central issuer for Bitcoin. It's the year 2026. So the banking system, in its efforts to fight us in cryptocurrency, has like two arms, like the arm that is up to date and is actually trying to sabotage us and stuff, which we have to deal with, of course. And then the other, which is just the huge mass of people who don't realize they're being outdated in real time. So anyway, shout out to Brian for at least getting some information to the clueless people going to these kind of events. They're just really not on the same playing field, What do you make of this, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I his perspective, I'm sure he trusts it, but I mean, why wouldn't a wealthy banker not trust it, right?
Exactly.
I don't know. My perspective, I don't have that background, so exactly. I would say markets are definitely irrational longer than it makes sense, because even in 2008, right, like inflation wasn't happening in the grand scheme. As I've gotten older, it makes more sense as to why. But especially for the US dollar, right, there's a lot of de-dollarization going on. That's I think inflation might be a topic again, right, in the coming years.
Yes, I think, certainly a rising concern of more and more people around the world. But anyway, just a small insight into where these people are at. Like, I remember there was 3 or 4 years ago, there was that clip of Hillary Clinton laughing about, these, we had it on the show, right? It was like these people with their, what did she call it? Esoteric. It wasn't esoteric. It was some less good word. Their, strange efforts to mine Bitcoin into being a competing system or something like that. And she was trying to laugh it off as this weird side thing. And here it is, years later. BCH is better. BTC maybe isn't, but crypto is a lot better and still making gains as, we just slowly replace these, outdated people day by day. So it's kind of good to see, right?
I have to wonder, did he put any effort into looking into what Bitcoin, how do you, this thing exists. Why do people buy it? Well, most people want because number go up. Well, what makes number go up? Well, it's deflationary. Well, why is it? Well, deflationary in the long term. And like, how do you just go the private issue? Like, have you ever watched the WKUK, Whitest Kids You Know?
No.
The guy that like made it, Trevor Moore, R.I.P. He has a song called "It's Time for Guillotines," and every time I see clips like this from old boomers, I'm like, bring them out. It's time for guillotines. These dumb motherfuckers.
Yeah, but I mean that's the thing. They don't look into it. It's exactly what Miguel said. In his world, it doesn't matter. The banking system is working for him, and whatever is happening with Bitcoin is something that he doesn't really understand. It's just some fools somewhere else doing some weird system that he's not involved in, and that's as far as his thought process goes. So he's like trying to argue against it. You know, oh, there's no centralized. I have the trust in the democratic mandate, and then the public and private sector, and it all is this great system. Like he just does not like. Brian, it just gives that eyebrow raise, like, oh, is he really? Like,
and I wouldn't care if it was just some random person, but this is a bank governor, the central bank governor. Like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Counting his money, counting his fiat. All right, cool. Well, anyway, we've got one chance message to the community to round out the show. Miguel, what does the BCH community need to hear?
There's so much I could say, use Bitcoin Cash. I'd lead with that, again, use it.
That's it. Okay. All right. Short and to the point. Fantastic. Okay. Our FundMe contributors for episodes 166 to 175. Majimali, this is a marathon. Molecular, the show we love. Cash Dragon, Bastion.com, fair and decentralized Twitter. Also now BChat.cash, at CashDams, BCH for the win. DGN and FurQ, sick rap anthem, #1 token coming at you. P2P Cash, smash the stake, greater than 40% APY, https://nwb.cash. John Ald, best podcast ever. Brian Kanachi and Anonymous. Shout out to our patrons, Ricky, Kyle, and HP, and our sponsors, General Protocols. Check out bchbull.com. Of course, you can go to bitcoincash.podcast.com for more info, Celine.cash, BChat.cash. Try it out and let us know how it's going and what's wrong with it or not. Also, check out Folding Cash and FundMe tokens as well. Where should people go for that? And any final words, Miguel?
Folding.cash for Folding Cash. That we have a Discord. That's where the most chat happens. And for fund tokens, for now, Telegram, although maybe a mailing list will be coming. We'll see.
Where do people find the link to that Telegram group?
Right now, it's on Dora Hacks, but if I can update the website to have a link on the website as well.
Okay.
I'll do that in the coming days.
And the website is chipnet.
Fundtokens.cash.
Okay, fundtokens.cash. Perfect. Jet, any final shout outs from you?
I guess just from earlier, just to James. Hope you can get them coins back someday, man.
Yes. And my shout out goes to Claude Code for helping me make this BChat dream a reality, which would have happened anyway, but it happened a lot faster with Claude Code. So for anybody who's programming in BCH, definitely poke around with AI because it's increasingly going to be our advantage as one of the most programmable, cheap and efficient chains is that people are just so unlocked to build whatever they want. And AI is definitely speeding that up in a way for us that some of our competitors to greater or lesser extents cannot benefit from, because if your blockchain is either broken or centralized or expensive, doesn't matter, AI can't help you with that problem. So we've got to get as much leverage out of that competitive advantage as we can. Okay, thank you all for listening. Until next time.
Nana, exit liquidity, hold till Nana, dump it all. Crypto Nana, exit liquidity, hold till Nana, dump it all. Crypto Nana, exit liquidity. liquidity. Dump it all. Hard, oh, na, na, dump it all. Exit liquidity, ho, Donana, dump it all. Donana, exit liquidity, ho, Donana, dump it all. From the day we arrive on the blockchain and blinking step into the trade, there's more to lose than can never be won, more to dump than can never be saved. Influencers, tweets, and the noobs all follow, buying high, selling low at a game. But the boomers know, and Sailor, he knows that the dump is coming. It's all the same. It's the circle of exit liquidity, and it moves us all through despair and hope, through faith and FOMO, till we find our place on the path unwinding in the circle of exit liquidity. Some of us fall by the wayside, and some of us soar to the stars. But the influencers always win with the Lambos and their cars. So beware of the pump and the inevitable dump, for the cycle continues and the news get wrecked. Donana, exit liquidity, hot Donana, dump it all. Donana, exit liquidity, hot Donana, dump it all. Crypto, na, exit liquidity. Dump it all. Hard, oh, na, dump it all. It's the circle of exit liquidity, and it moves us all through despair and hope, through faith and FOMO, till we find our place on the path unwinding in the circle of exit liquidity. Tunana, dump it all.